Hello everyone, episode 27 already? Oh my god, we are reaching to an end point of the series, but don't you worry, there is more to be covered in upcoming weeks. So as early as we are finished with the series, you will be able to watch a new series that will be devoted towards free agency and towards draft. So don't you worry, you will get all of the content that you need for your NFL knowledge right here on this channel. So if you like what I'm doing here, please give me a like, leave me a comment, or share me with other guys that you know are enjoying NFL as much as I do and you want to share them my knowledge and my enjoyment. It would be immensely pleasing. Thank you very much. With that being said, it's time for the Ravens. And with the Ravens, I always think of Edgar Allan Poe because it's a little bit of horror because it's just never the happy finish that you hope for with the Ravens. And unfortunately, this year it was not different. So how did it happen? Where they have to go next? Well, let's find out. And we do this as usual by reviewing their 2024 draft. So they started with Nate Wiggins. I like this pick. General public liked it even more. And yeah, I think you can say he was not the best corner rookie. Well, Eagles, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean kind of stole the show, stole the title, but in secondary, or even like we can apply it to the whole Ravens defense that clearly was not like a usual Ravens defense. Clearly the departures of several coaches from the side of the ball, namely and especially Mike McDonald, had its toes on this defense. And to be thrown into the environment like this, where the older guys, the proven guys, are not really stepping up or are like having downright bad season, he definitely held his own as part-time number one, part-time number two edge corner, depending on Marlon Humphrey health and assignment. So Nate Wiggins, definitely a guy for the future of the Ravens that you are super happy after year one. Now, they also tried to refresh their offensive line by letting go both Morgan Moses and Kevin Zeitler. And I was like, well, guys, you've just signed Derrick Henry. I wanted to enjoy great running back or amazing running back, great dual threat QB or amazing dual threat QB, and good O-line at least. And now you are just telling me that it's Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, that we don't know if he's going to be healthy, and three guys that pretty much never played in NFL too much. Some of them rookies, some of them guys that was rookies in years prior. So it's like, I was not a fan of that approach, but clearly they know what they were doing. We will get to the other guys later because they were not rookies, unlike Rosengarten, but he definitely stepped in and fulfilled his role as starting right tackle very, very well. There are definitely plays in which he looks like a rookie, because he is, but let's be fair, this we would call success if he was a first round rookie. I mean, if he was a top 10 tackle, putting together first year like this, I think you would be okay with it. If you go like 20th, 25th as a first round, I'm like, yeah, I would be super happy to find, because tackle is like super tough to transition from college to pro, because the position is the same, but it's different, because suddenly the amount of sheer mass that you need to handle is just like, yeah, it's just a crazy upturn that you need to do. And Rosengarten, to his credit, definitely made it look like he is capable of transition very well, became very, very solid right tackle pretty much off the bat, and he's there to stay. And Ravens are definitely look very well for this pick. So now that's pretty much it in terms of how much did they got out of this class, because as much as I like these guys, as you can see by my grades, I was always very, very high on them. I felt they were good picks in terms of value. I also felt that they were great picks in terms of there is a playing time to be had for them with the Ravens even year one. They didn't get it, neither one of them. It's like 32 snaps for Isaac, 60 for Walker, and 18 for Tampa. And neither of these guys are like 20 years old, so they were not like drafted to be developmental prospect that our Ravens are going to count on like 3 years down the stretch. I'm not going to say that it cannot happen, that they don't have an upside, but for them to really not get on some of the opportunities that were there is a little bit worrying. I would say mostly for DJ Tampa, because secondary was struggling. Marlon Humphrey had his injuries. There were snaps to come by that just didn't went into DJ Tampa's direction. Now let's go to other guys: Rasheen Ali, Devin Leary, Nick Samak, and Sanusi Kane. From neither of these guys I expected anything, and neither of them actually delivered anything in year one. But there is one more twist to this, because the fact that especially this trio did not really get too many of the opportunities was partly because Ravens was, compared to the league average, quite healthy team. Like, I'm not saying some of their star players did not miss some games. I'm not saying that. But compared to other teams, I mean, you can obviously make comparison to the Lions, and you are like, well, yeah, it's not comparable, but they were a relatively healthy team. So that's where you are like, yeah, there were snaps to come by, but in normal years, they would have been more opportunities for these guys, because some of the starters would go down much more. Like, it was above average, definitely like healthier for the Ravens. And to come up short on this year in terms of their Super Bowl hopes kind of stings a little bit more. So that was their draft class. I mean, you got your two starters from your two best picks, so you cannot really call this class bad one. For the other guys, you hope that you will get some production later in their careers. Now, let's take a look at how the roster actually performed on position by position base. And we start with Lamar Jackson. And I think it's the first time in NFL history in which a guy gets an MVP and then the next year he plays at least a level better than he did the year before, yet he does not win an MVP. But that happened. Lamar Jackson was a better version of himself than he was in last year. I can sign it up with my own blood. I trust this one 100%. He was better. He was simply freaking better. Yet he did not win an MVP. And I cannot say I'm surprised, because the guy that he lost his MVP to, Josh Allen, was also freaking spectacular. I mean, there was definitely a case for making a co-MVP, because they both freaking deserved it. But today we talk about Lamar. So, almost 6,000 yards combined, almost 50 touchdowns, and only 5 picks. I mean, so while you can definitely argue that he was part of the reason why they were in the hole at that game, he also helped them to crawl it out, put the team on their shoulder, and almost got there. Unfortunately, Mark Andrews was not able to come up with a catch on 2-point conversion. I mean, Bills would still be favorites. They would have the ball, the game would be tight, they would have chance to score or to put the game into overtime. So I'm not saying the Ravens would have won, but it's a shame that we were kind of robbed of that. That also should not be a reason for an abuse that Mark Andrews has been under after that failed catch. And huge kudos to Bills Mafia fans that actually put out a petition, some kind of collection towards Mark Andrews to withstand that hate. So kudos to you. But back to Lamar. I mean, what a pain in the ass this guy is. Like, imagine if you finally break a tackle, you get around Ronnie Stanley, and you are heading to Lamar, and he just steps in the bucket. He just is so twitchy, so athletic, so smart, so fast. Like, put a hand on this guy. It's freaking frustrating. Not to mention that it's not like with Tom Brady and Jared Goff that, you know, they have great or elite standing in the pocket. Like, they can step up the pressure, but Lamar can literally run out of the pressure. And the minute you overplay your hand, you open up the hole, he's going to freaking punish you. So he's probably, like, I would say him and Josh Allen are the two most frustrating QBs to play against, because, like, so many times you do all the things right, and yet you just cannot make stuff happen to slow him down. So that's Lamar. What he had, like, it's just like, on one side, it's just great that we get these insane matchups in playoffs: Lamar, Joe, Josh, and Patrick. On the other side, it's kind of sad that Patrick always wins, and also that we will never get this in Super Bowl unless one of these guys transfer to NFC. So we will see if that ever happens. Lamar was obviously the closest to it, because 2 years ago, Ravens were shopping him. They didn't want to prolong him towards the deal that he wanted. And at the end of the day, both parties came together and for benefit of both of them. So I don't know if Lamar can improve what on this season. I mean, if he repeats that would be just freaking insane. It's just so exciting to watch. At the same time, I would freaking hate it as a defensive player. Now let's switch to running backs, because I really want to bring Derrick Henry into this conversation, because before the year started, I've told you guys that this is the team, or this is the offense that if I was a coach, I would try to replicate. I absolutely love the idea of mobile QB, multiple tight ends, good O-line, great running backs, and run the damn football. And who better to that than bring Derrick Henry, the guy that has bazillion snaps, bazillion rushing attempts in the NFL and college, and the dude still looks freaking awesome. Like, he is rare specimen, definitely a future Hall of Famer, and one of the guys that I was just so happy that he got this chance to go to Baltimore and compete for a ring, because with the Titans last couple of years, he was great, but he was kind of one-man army. Here, suddenly, the defense is needed to focus at Lamar and him, and obviously some other guys, but the blocking was there, the schemes were there, and 6.0 yards a carry. Oh my God, come on, give me a break, man. Give me a break. Like, that's almost impossible for a player that he's out there for first downs. Like, he's out there for third downs. Like, he gets you tough yardage, he gets you big yardage, he gets you, like, what? I mean, the only thing that this guy does not do on a great level is his hands. Like, he is not a great catcher of the ball. Like, he can do it, and sometimes you can surprise defense with that. But, you know, you could make an argument that he is better at throwing touchdowns than receiving them. Like, it would actually be, I don't have the exact numbers, probably like he has more receiving touchdowns than he has throwing, but he has a couple of throwing touchdowns as well. But I was so happy that this year, like, I got my wishes, and I've seen him and Lamar. I've seen Saquon and Jalen Hurts. And I've seen Josh Allen and James Cook. Like, Jaden Daniels and Austin Eckler. You know, like, there is not a great running back room in Washington. Not a bad one either, but, like, it was so fun. And, like, I really, really liked it. I am also super interested in how the league is going to counter that. Because it's now suddenly much more of a meta. Like, you have Super Bowl champions doing that. You have, obviously, Jaden Daniels, you know, the team that Eagles beat going into the Super Bowls. You have Bills, another loser of conference round. You have Ravens that Bills needed to beat to get to the conference round. So there's so many teams that achieved super greatly by having really freaking good running backs as well as mobile QBs, who just makes this almost always a mismatch. So Derrick Henry, super fun to watch. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen next year, how the league is going to try to counter that. We will see. But the running back room of the Ravens does not end there, because they have Justice Hill. And what the Ravens are doing also very well is they are prolonging their really nice pieces that league is not sure how would they fare in terms of if we would get this guy a starting job, would he be able to deliver? But Ravens are able to keep them for relative cheap as their backups. Justice Hill is one of the examples, because just before the last season started, they signed him to 2 year, something around 7-6 million extension, or was it even less? Let me check. 2 years, 6 million. That's a contract that's going to start to count this season. So they have him on next 2 years for 6 million. And for Justice Hill, for what he is, that's a freaking bargain. Dude is really great. He's a really great compliment to Derrick Henry because he has great hands. I mean, is it a little bit of giveaway that we might try to pass the ball if there is Justice Hill, but not Derrick Henry? Well, yeah, but like we said, with Derrick Henry, sometimes you can throw him a ball, whether it's to screen, most likely screen, and sometimes Justice Hill can run, and dude can run. He showed it. He has power. So you can definitely have so much fun with this, because if the defense is going to count on the tendencies and think if Derrick is there, it's always going to be run. If Justice is there, it's much more likely to be a pass. You can definitely surprise them. So what a fun compliment towards Derrick Henry, and what a great running back on his own. So we will see where Justice Hill is going to get after this contract will end for him, because he's going to be just before his 30s. And let's be fair, he has not earned a huge amount of money. It's around 12 million after taxes. I mean, it's still great freaking livelihood, but for what he is able to bring to the table, he was kind of always a very much of a bargain for the Ravens. They obviously have Keaton Mitchell, rookie from last year, so this was his second season. Undrafted guy that, he has his flashes. Unfortunately, he just cannot stay healthy. He has, I think, under 200 snaps combined. He had some incredible runs in 2023, but health is just not there for him. We will see if he gets some opportunities next season. But it was not only about rushing the ball, because wide receivers also stepped up. And obviously that has a lot to do with Lamar Jackson being, dare I say, elite passer of the football, which was always a knock on him. He's great two-way threat, but his throwing abilities are mediocre, average. It's not the case anymore. Is he the best? No, but he's definitely really freaking good at throwing the ball. And with Zay Flowers, he has his number one guy. It was clear last season, and this year he just put a stamp on it. He is number one wide receiver the Ravens were looking for so many years, and they have found him. The question for Zay Flowers, and I would say for more from a public side of the equation, is he probably will never get a huge season in terms of 15 touchdowns, 1,500 yards, because that's not how this offense necessarily functions, right? They don't need him to do that. They have a lot of mouths to feed, whether it's tight ends, running backs, other wide receivers, Lamar on his own, that like his numbers will always kind of look like a number 2, yet he's going to be playing like a number 1. And I think he can step up into eliteness even without this production, because just based on how much of a nuisance he could be towards defenses. He's not there yet, don't get me wrong, he's not there. But I think that's his potential, and it's not going to be, at least for me, in how I grade Zay Flowers, it's not going to be just based on, well, he has just 7 touchdowns, so he cannot be elite. That's not the case for me. So Zay Flowers, definitely a great guy, great player, and unfortunately, he was sorely missed in the playoffs. I think that he missed the whole playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, he unfortunately missed the whole playoffs. But a guy that stepped up, and I would say made a similar size in terms of progress, was Rashad Bateman. This former first-round pick was, I don't want to call him a bust for them in terms of his rookie contract, but there were a lot of injuries, unfortunately for him, that derailed his career a little bit, and he never reached like a superstar upside. That's clear by just being a good starter for me, right? But at the same time, that's what allowed the Ravens to bring him back on relatively cheap for a guy that they still believed in. They extended him 2 years, 13 million, so 6.5 million a year. Another extension that's going to start this season. So it's not like he was under cheap for last year. He was because of his rookie deal, but he's going to be for very much of a cheap deal for next 2 years. And if he can repeat, or if the hell breaks loose and he kind of tunes up to actually being the first rounded drafted wide receiver. I don't think sky's the limit. I think injuries are what slowed him down in the past, but he was highly, highly productive in the season. Exactly the guy that they need as a complement to Zay Flowers. They could have rare 2 guys that, if you just tag them and put them against other wide receiver duos and trios, they won't be on top of guys list, but they would be exactly what Baltimore needs. And for them, yeah, I think they are pretty damn happy that they have these 2 guys, or at least 2 more seasons. Those 2 guys will have combined 20 millions in terms of cap hit in the next 2 years. Obviously with Zay, it's because he's on a rookie deal, but that's great for him. Nelson Aguilar, kind of veteran presence that really didn't show much. I feel like he's not going to be back with the team. The question is, do you actually need 3 here? Yes, especially because with Bateman, you don't know if he's going to stay healthy or if he keeps producing as he did last year. And you can say the same thing. Zay Flowers went down for a couple of games, so they definitely need a 3. More in terms of, we need to have backups for these 2 guys rather than we need to invest first round pick to get ourselves a wide receiver, because they frankly will be with 2 wide receivers or less on the field for a lot of the snaps. So why is that? Well, because of this tight end room. They want to run the ball, and when you run the ball, you are usually in 12 personnel or 13 personnel. And you can do that if you are Baltimore Ravens, because you have one of the best tight end trio in the league, maybe even the best in terms of depth and quality, and one of the most fun too. Those guys can do a bit of both. They are kind of similar, though it's Charlie Collar who is with Mark Andrews, he is the best blocker. Isaiah is much more of a mismatch type that blocking is not really what he is out there for, but he can do it sometimes, but he's much more out there for his hands. And then you have Mark Andrews who is there for both. We start with Mark, and I already talked about it. The way the season ended for Ravens, and especially for Mark, was yeah, it was ugly. Let's face it. You cannot drop the ball there. Like, not in that situation, not when you are alone. I understand the weather, but he was freaking alone. The ball was in his hand. He knows. He freaking knows. And like, I would say, repeat this situation 1,000 times. He drops the ball like one or two, like 3 times combined at most. It sucks, but it's a reality. That's why, the saying, any given Sunday, I mean, any given snap. Like, the season is so freaking short. The playoffs is one game. One play can mean that this whole team will never win a Super Bowl. Like, it might have been their year. It might have been the year that they have the biggest chance. You never know. The most important thing for Mark is to put it out of his head. It was super hard for him. I think like he would be his biggest critic, and what went in terms of the internet abuse was super ugly. So first of all, I want to wish Mark and his family all the best. I hope that they are safe and they are, like, I would say, mentally healthy, that this didn't like get under their skin. So that's my first and biggest wish towards Mark. In terms of, is he slowing down a little bit? Is he still an elite tight end? I'm sorry. I don't think so. I feel like it's not because of the drop. I feel overall this year was not at his great, and like he was already kind of on the verge with a couple of years. It was like really freaking good, but were they elite? So to me, he's still one of the top 5, top 7 tight ends at worst. I would still have him definitely in my top 5. And it's going to be interesting to see where he is next season, because he's still not 30. And there is a lot of making up based on that drop that he probably feels like he needs to do. And I would say probably fans will do that as well. But is he going to be able to do that? I think he should. I still do believe in him, and I wish it to him. It's not like I'm particularly a huge fan of Mark Andrews. It's much more like after what happened to him, yeah, I just wish him the best. With the rest of these guys, like, you have very nice tight ends, and they combine each other and mesh this room greatly. The one problem is all of these guys are on 1-year deals from this point. So all of them, as we are talking right now, are going to be free agents in 2026. Will you be able to keep them together? Will you want to? Or is it going to be like, yeah, we want to move on with Charlie Cora, and likely we want to get younger? We will see. So there is no certainty, and at this point it's probably more likely that we will not see this trio together in 2026. So for you fans that like their 12 personnel, that like to run the ball and like to use the tight ends in very interesting schemes, as well as just the blockers, like, enjoy Ravens in 2025, because this trio might break after this season. Now let's shift towards the offensive line that was, like I said, with Roger Rosengarten, a huge question mark for the whole Ravens team before the season started. Like, first one was losing Mike McDonald, how that's going to impact the defense. Second was this offensive line, because when the season started, it was, yeah, we have top 3, top 5 center in Tyler Linderbaum. That was, by the way, still the case. He is great. I would not put him into tier with Fred Gregno and Creed Humphrey, but he would probably be my 3rd best center in the league. He has been that pretty much ever since he entered the league. 3 years, he's been super freaking great. I feel like he will enter that eliteness one day, even for me. But yeah, he is freaking awesome. But that was kind of the one piece that you were certain about, because while Ronnie Stanley used to be one of the best left tackles in the league. He was not playing like one in last 3 years, let's say it, because there were injuries that stockpiled on Ronnie Stanley, and they had an influence on him when he was on the field. But this year, he was able to stay healthy. He missed 0 games, and was he towards the peak of his powers, where he was one of the best left tackles in the league? No, he was not that. But he was, between 15th and 18th best left tackle in the league, which might sound like a bad compliment, but it's definitely a huge one. Like I said, the league is filled with great left tackles, and Ronnie Stanley is one of them. I was not certain if they will be able to bring him back, because there are other teams that obviously need left tackles, especially to protect their young quarterbacks. Looking at you Patriots, that had a lot of free money. So the expectation was Ronnie Stanley would get to some of these teams. Well, they were able to actually bring him back. We will talk more about that, but I didn't expect that one. But put ourselves back towards start of 2024. So it was Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, who we probably don't expect to get through season without missing games. And also, if he's out there, like how good he is actually. So he's like kind of 1.5 piece that you are happy with. And then you have, Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Falele as guards. Roger Rosengarten as your right tackle. It looked like a recipe for disaster, but it wasn't. They figured it out. Don't question Ravens and their O-line, because they can work with these guys, they can develop them, and they got out of them pretty much everything that was there for their kind of first year as starters. With Roger Rosengarten, we already talked about him with the draft take, so I'm not going to repeat myself. Let's jump to the... And we start our talk with Andrew Voorhees, who was kind of an interesting prospect in 2023, because talent-wise, he was somewhere around 3rd or 4th round prospect. But because of injury, it was clear that he is going to miss the whole 2023 season. And Ravens were cool with that. They drafted him in 7th round and were like, okay, we will wait for you for 2024. And I think the plan from start of the year was we will start with Linderbaum, McCarry, Falele, Voorhees, and Stanley. And we will see how this goes. Unfortunately for Voorhees, after 3 games, he suffered an injury. Ravens were prepped for this situation. McCarry was shifted towards interior, and Roger Rosengarten was given a start as right tackle. And since this worked super well for the Ravens, and neither of these guys actually went down with injury in the year, like pretty much every of these guys have played ever since. Like Andrew Voorhees got his only start in week 18, where there was not much on the line for the Ravens, or like there was something, but not to the point that you would not save some of the players. I think they were saving McCarry in that game. So unfortunately, the opportunity that was clearly there was shut down just like this, because of health of the guys and them playing well. So Andrew Voorhees, still a guy that has a lot to prove, but I think that they are still very keen on him, and I kind of do expect him to start next year, because they let Patrick McCarry go. They are clearly happy with Rosengarten as a right tackle, and Daniel Falele, he definitely delivered as a right guard. After 2 years in which he was not able to crack a lineup, when he played a couple of snaps, he looked horrendous. They entrusted that he is going to be able to play, and he's going to be good, and he was for them. So is this greatest O-line in the league? Not by any stretch of imagination. The good thing is, it's damn freaking cheap. Like, you just hear me out. Because the cap hit for the starting offensive line for 2025 for the Baltimore Ravens is going to be $16 million. Yeah, like obviously when you pay guys top bucks like Lamar Jackson, like Mark Andrews, like Derrick Henry, like Nandi Madubike, like Marlon Humphrey, like Roquan Smith, you get the point. You need to ease up and cheapen up somewhere. They've decided offensive line is that place, and so far it's going very good. Compare perhaps some of the expectations. Like these are not even like highly drafted players, in terms of the young guys. Voorhees, Valele, and Rosengarten. Like he is the highest drafted of them, and he was very end of a second round. Obviously, like I'm cheating a little bit because 4 of these guys on offensive line are under rookie contract, so they will eventually get much more expensive. And Ronnie Stanley, they structured his contract that his cap hit next year is only 6 million, while his average cap hit would be 20 million. So but even if we put average of Ronnie Stanley, it would still be a $30 million offensive line that is absolutely able to do their job. Now we finished with the offense of the Ravens. How to sum it up? Well, they were the third most productive offense in the whole league. The only 2 teams that were more productive were the Bills and were the Lions. With the Bills, it was very neck and neck. With the Lions, they kind of absolutely need to step up because their defense just, they kind of all went towards hospital. Was it super fun? Yeah. This was exactly as I envisioned, as good as I envisioned. It was super fun to watch. I enjoyed this very, very much. I'm just super excited about next year. I really wonder how especially this offensive line is going to be able to work and function next year, if they will bring some guys into the rotation from the draft. But I think that their starting 5 is kind of complete at this point. Now let's shift towards defense, where the conversation is going to be much worse. We start on the edge, where David Ojabo just, it's hard if you struggle with so many injuries that despite some of the good flashes, you are just far, far away from the highly drafted prospect that, was in a lot of mock drafts in the first round, but because of injury concerns, he fell into second round, and unfortunately, he just has not been able to work so far in the NFL. And this year was kind of a year where he could have stepped up, where he could have proved that he is a great player. Unfortunately, despite being reasonably healthy on his standards, it was just not much there. Like he's probably like nice edge 4. You can go with and play him as an edge 3. He's like at best a rotational piece for them for next season, which is going to be his contract year, and we will see where his career will going to take him after that, because like maybe he's going to be one of the guys like Rashad Bateman that Ravens kind of internally know that he's good. The only thing is, can he really show it on the field, and can he stay healthy? And that could be worth a risk for them, re-signing him for say 2 years, 8 to 10 millions. But from what I've seen on the field, he would not be worth it, even that, which is kind of ugly almost to say about the guy that once upon a time he could have been a top 15 pick, and rightfully so. 3 years into his career, 45 feels like a reach, and he would have to be liable to bust, though it's always harsh when the injuries are a super huge part of that. But it was not all bad, for sure, for the edge group of the Ravens. Kyle Van Noy. Oh man, this dude, what a weird career for Kyle Van Noy, right? Because like he spent all of his years, obviously, with the Patriots. And like he was, I don't want to say like a product of Belichick's system, but he definitely like used his headiness there, I would say, the most, and it was where he like blossomed the most. But then his career started to fade away, and it felt like he's just going to be this veteran guy that will sign pretty much new team every single year, and is not going to be much more of a presence. And then the 2023 happened, and Kyle Van Noy was kind of low-key very, very, very good. But still, people was like, well, is he really, really good, or was it just a flash in the pan? And that allowed Ravens to sign him before 2024 for a 2-year, $9 million deal. Now, needless to say that his great year came with the Ravens in 2023, where they were able to sign him for 1 year, $1.4 million. Before that, it was Chargers 1 year, $2.2 million. So at that point, he was like super, super cheap. And he stayed super cheap because 2 years, $9 million for a guy with this production, that's a freaking bargain. So I really wonder what the market is going to be next season if he repeats such a performance, because even though he's going to be 34 starting next season, he doesn't appear to slow down. It seems to be like his second wave in terms of his career, and I really wonder where it goes from here for Kyle Van Noy. Needless to say, he is not your dominating edge, greatest, he is very ideally your 3. You can definitely be super happy with your 2, but he's not 1. And neither is at this point Odafe Oweh, whom has kind of average trajectory for a first round edge player. He's not a bust by any stretch of imagination, but he has not reached full game wrecker type of specimen that some of the first rounds can definitely reach. Needless to say, he was 31st pick, so it's not like he is a top 10 pick. He's almost a second round. But again, very, very good player. After first two disappointing years, I think last 2 years, I would say in part because of Kyle Van Noy's presence, was where he steadied his performances, put them into a level that I think him and the Ravens are pretty happy with, and his 5th-year option was rightfully picked up last offseason. Again, if you look at this trio, it's not like you are frightened, and it's the same on the field. They were good, but they weren't great. Let's put it diplomatically that way. Now, let's move towards interior, where I'm a huge fan of Michael Pierce, but it just seems like his body is really start to giving up on him. They try to save him, really sprinkle him in. And I feel like probably during summer review, his importance starter will need to go down, because it just doesn't seem like he is at this point of his career where he can put up 500 to 600 snaps. And he was kind of overtaken by Travis Jones as this cork presence that they need on the direct middle of their defensive line. And Travis Jones, he freaking delivered. This was his 3rd year. He steadily improves year after year. I would say Michael Pierce definitely functions as a mentor for him, and he is great. Is he ever going to be Dexter Lawrence, Chris Jones? No, but he should be kind of a great successor for Michael Pierce, and a guy that Nnamdi Madubuike can get unleashed next to, because Nnamdi is not super great run defender. Neither you try to push him towards being that, because he can get most of his damage in the backfield as a rusher, and being a great run defender costs a lot of damn energy that perhaps he would not have for rushing the quarterback. So especially in a situation where you don't have dominating edges, you kind of need to generate pressure from interior, and that's where Nandi steps in. This was not as great of a year as he had in 2023, though I would say he was far from being a disappointment. Clearly, he was feeling better with Mike McDonald, able to sometimes like serve him opportunities like on golden platter. But still, he is one of top 15 defensive tackles in the league and one of the top 10 guys in terms of rushing the QB from the interior. So overall, this defensive line is functional and it doesn't have a superstar. It does not necessarily have a clear weakness, but it's not a strength. Let's put it that way. What could have been a strength was where linebackers they let go Roquan, not Roquan, Patrick Queen. They let go Patrick Queen because Roquan just were able to be the guy that they traded for from Chicago and really worth a hefty price that they gave for a linebacker. And they were like kind of, okay, let's step up with Trenton Simpson, put him into the same situation as Patrick Queen was like, be just a guy that Roquan is kind of able to remote control on. You will do what he tells you, you will be the athlete, he will be the brain, and it's going to work out just fine. Well, it didn't. Trenton, like on snap by snap basis, I wouldn't say like he was bad. Neither any of his statistics look horrendous. He was obviously a bit of a problem in terms of coverage, but he was not like a vacant space in terms of coverage. Like he occasionally made some great plays. But kind of at the midpoint of the season, where the defensive woes for the Ravens were at its peak, they've decided to bench him, bring Malik Harrison, and whether it was this change or some of the others, though, like when you just look at PFF grades for Malik Harrison's time of coverage, it appears that, especially in coverage, he was much worse than Trenton, but clearly there was something that clicked with the whole defense. I wouldn't say it's change from Simpson to Harrison that necessarily made it happen, but it was part of the process that made Ravens defense looked playable. There were points in the season where, despite a lot of talent, you are looking at this defense like, this is not a Super Bowl championship team because they just don't have a defense for that. And it brings me to Roquan Smith, where I lowered him from an elite starter tier. And I only left Fred Warner there because, to me, there's just a difference between these two guys. And whilst I do understand that there are reasons why Roquan did not look exceptional this year, I would say that part of the issue and part of the blame of the defensive struggles needs to go on Roquan as well. Because if we are going to shift towards secondary, I feel like a lot of the guys there actually stepped it up. With Roquan, whether it's like Trenton Simpson was too much to handle in terms of, remote control him, there were plays where he was late, whether it's late to diagnose, whether it's like he was trying to do too much because of the defense was not performing. Part of it, but I don't think he played at the top of his game. I don't think he played his game sometime, and it showed. So to me, he lost the elite status. I definitely believe he can absolutely gain it back within perhaps even a couple of games of 2025. But based on the tape, I just could not keep him into the elite status, and I felt like for linebackers, at this point, it's only Fred Warner that really, really deserves it. So, let me know down in the comment whether you agree that Roquan is kind of this not in the conversation for the best linebacker in the league. And to me, it's probably not a conversation at this point. I think it's just Fred Warner. But let me know what you think. Now let's shift towards secondary, and we start with Kyle Hamilton. And what is Kyle Hamilton? Like, what's his role? Somebody tell me, because he plays everywhere. I don't usually do this, but I will give you his snap counts. Okay, so D-line 78, box 407, slot corner 292, wide corner 18, free safety 355. Like, dude plays all over the damn football field. And it's pretty much all about getting him the closest to the ball, getting him into the mix of the action, because he is superb in everything. He is one of the best players in the league, regardless of the position. And it's just, like, to me, what Taysom Hill is for offensive coordinator, where he can play tight end, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, sometimes 6 lineman, but that's pretty much tight end. That's kind of Kyle Hamilton for defensive coordinator. But with Taysom Hill, he's really good at a lot of things. With Kyle Hamilton, he's kind of exceptional at a lot of things. So a lot of analysts call him like a positionless player. I would say his position is like wherever he feels like, wherever he's needed the most at a certain point of time. So he obviously needs to be in the system that allows that, because part of it, it's like it has some increased like tools on the rest of the defense, because they need to reshuffle much more often than they perhaps would have to with a guy that just plays one position, because he plays so many of them. But it's much more, I would say, the responsibility of the coaching staff, which again could be something that first year coordinator for the Ravens, I mean Zach Orr, if I'm mistaken. Yeah, Zach Orr could have struggled a little bit, but kudos to him. I feel like after really not great start to the year, especially like the mid part of the season, they were able to figure shit out in the Baltimore and make this defense looked solid. A guy that was a huge disappointment, and a guy that you did not see this year coming, was Marcus Williams. Like, he's not even 30, but this was such an ugly year for Marcus Williams that you just did not see coming. Like, he was freaking liability. He was not able to diagnose anything. He was late to everything. And when he was targeted, the QBs has perfect rating. That's it's also for history books, but for really bad reasons. And I still have him as a good starter, because I don't want to say that it came out of nowhere, but like, he was still playing like this, and it was like slight drops, and then it was like such a freaking fall, such a downfall, that I don't know what happened. I really don't. When they benched him and went more with like other guys, where it's Darius Washington, Brandon Stevens got more playing time, it got much better. So clearly there was something like super wrong with Marcus this year. I wonder where he's going to land next season, because I don't think his career is done. I don't feel like he necessarily looks slow. It was just like suddenly you would go on YouTube and put the video from 1 speed rate to 1.5 for him. Like, game was too quick for him, it felt like. Like I said, I did not expect this one coming. I just really wonder what the future is going to look like for Marcus Williams, because Ravens got him. I feel like they could have done this, but I was not certain about it at all. I feel like maybe they would know why this steep fall happened, and it's not like they are saving a ton of money on that cut. It's like pretty much nothing. So even that like kind of adds to the situation that they are clearly done with him, and we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for Marcus Williams. But it wasn't all bad in terms of secondary, especially Adarius Washington was one of the guys that got much more of a playing time in the second part of the year. And while it was not all pretty, he definitely held his end of the bargain. And for an undrafted pickup from 2021, he finally got his opportunity and he played damn freaking well. And is he signed for next year? No. So where he went? We will see. You will see that in free agency review. So fortunately, kind of the break for him came in the situation where he might not be back. Kind of unfortunately for the Ravens. Where is he? Dude, am I? Okay, so he's under tender offer, so he should be able to be back with the Ravens on 3.2 million. So great for them, and we will see if he's able to repeat what he showed in actually like a huge part of the season. His market is going to be really good, but like you have to have an understanding of 3 years before he really did not sniff a field at all, and he was an undrafted pickup. So you might question like why he's just a decent starter after what he showed, that he was clearly a part of like a huge turnaround for this defense. Well, there is probably a reason why he was not on the field for 3 years and was undrafted. So you need to always be like slow on really raising these highs to super high levels, because it was kind of flash in the pan for them in terms of their careers. But let's shift towards more of a cornerback room. Marlon Humphrey, what a year. He needed this one. Ravens needed him to have this one, because like similarly to Ronnie Stanley in terms of offense, Marlon Humphrey once upon a time was definitely in the conversations about like who is the best corner in the league. Last couple of years, not so much, partially because of the injuries. But this year he was able to stay almost injury-free. Like he missed like a game or two, couple of snaps here and there, but mainly he was healthy. He was playing slot, he was playing wide, he was playing in the box, and all of that on a great level. He added a lot of ball production, 6 interceptions, and he was and is and probably going to be a guy that next to him, Nate Wiggins can definitely grow. We already talked about Nate Wiggins, great rookie season for him. And like I said, because Marlon does not play like full-time as a wide corner, sometimes he's facing the toughest matchups in terms of wide receivers out there. He's facing number ones from the opposing team, and he was able to handle it. Obviously, if you put so much on the plate of a rookie, sometimes he has his hiccups. There will be some really bad plays on him, but overall, great season. In terms of what was there behind these guys, not really much. They were kind of forced to play Brandon Stevens pretty much the whole year, and like he is borderline decent starter, probably a guy that you really don't want to be as your starter, much more of a good backup type that you can use in certain packages and you are happy to have on roster, because while there is a lot of pushback on him and he was clearly with Marcus Williams the biggest problems of that secondary, he is not like unplayable. Like he has his problems, especially in coverage, but it's not like if you have to turn towards him for 2 or 3 games, then he would like lose you the games. He's not going to be an average, he's going to be below average, but you can definitely live with him as the first man from the bench. Unfortunately, they probably expected him to be more than that, and it just doesn't seem like he is. He was forced to play the whole year, and it was not like super pretty. Again, you have to have an understanding that with the D-line not necessarily being extremely good, sometimes there is more on the plates of the corners, and some guys like Brandon Stevens would be able to hold on for 2 seconds, but they are unable to hold for 2.5. Then they even tried to bring Tre'Davious White from the Rams. Really when things were getting bad, midpoint of the season, they were like, okay, some of the veterans are not working out, like Eddie Jackson, like Marcus Williams. Let's bring another veteran into the room. Perhaps we will lack on him. No, Tre'Davious White had a putrid year for both Ravens and Rams. And it's going to be interesting, like who is going to take a chance on him for next year, because like once upon a time, we are not like so, it hasn't been like 20 years since Tre'Davious White was a really good corner. But, as unfortunately it's usually the case, injuries happened, and pretty much I would say like since 2020, he just has not been the same. A guy that when he had one of the most memorable and one of the most insane rookie season for a corner. Like he just entered the league like sauce, like Patsertan, like Devon Witherspoon, like he entered the league like he owns it. His rookie deal was really good for the Bills, but pretty much ever since 2021, 2022 was really the year when shit started to hit the fan, as you say. And at this point, this year started might even be a stretch and much more like a compliment to his past than a reflection on what he is on the field. Still, like getting hard to judge based on injuries. Is it injuries that are keeping him out, or is it his play? Most of the times it was injuries. This is the first year that it was even his play was like, no, we are just not good at that with 2 teams. So that was your 2024 Ravens, and with that, let's hand out some rewards. For drafted, it was Roger Rosengarten for me. It was close between him and Wiggins. To me, like based on like toughness of the position and the transition in the league, this is bigger value to be as good as he was year 1 than Nate Wiggins. But like I said, both of them very good draft hits for the Ravens. With Roger, I mean, could he be a top 10 right tackle next year? As I discuss a lot of times in these videos, with left tackles, to get into top 10, you have to be an amazing starter. Like it's crazy. It's really crazy out there. For right tackles, the competition is slightly lower, so guy like Roger Rosengarten can definitely enter in even year 2. He has, I think, all of the tools that are needed. The only thing that you can pinpoint on him, like how much of a strength he has, I would like him to gain some pounds and to be able to really push guys in running games, especially much more. But the hands are there, the mind is there, the dedication, the quality. We'll see where the future lands Roger Rosengarten on the map of right tackles in the league. Like I said, it could have been Nate Wiggins. I kind of went with 2 draft hits here. Nate and Roger was there because like when I considered draft blunders, like where these guys have not played, so I would have to get like at least they were kind of in that first segment, the trio of Isaac, Walker, and Tampa. They were just kind of blunders all combined in terms of they didn't really play in year 1. So instead of revealing draft blunder here, I went for 2 guys that were great hits for the Ravens. In terms of cornerstone of this franchise, I try not to be lazy and not to for most of the franchises, cornerstone is the quarterback. Here, my definition of cornerstone is also like how much compared to the guys on his position. He was great in 2024, as much as how he's viewed as a leader for the team, how he can change the culture, etc., etc. But for some teams, it's still going to come down for quarterbacks, and with Ravens, like how can it not? If you are an MVP, and the year after you are playing on higher level, what do you want more? Like Lamar was exceptional and he is cornerstone of this franchise. Yeah, we already talked about TJ Tampa being a blunder here. In terms of an unsung hero for the Ravens, I actually went for Kyle Hamilton. And you might say that, well, a lot of people know about Kyle Hamilton, but with him being kind of this positionless player, and also when you talk about Ravens, Lamar is going to be number one, right? And this season, Derrick Henry is going to be number two. And then there's going to be, the conversation's going to fall off. Some will remember Nandi Madubike and his last year, but I encourage everyone that enjoys, I would say, brain, speed, well, pretty much everything that defensive player can do, watch Kyle Hamilton's tape. You will freaking enjoy that. I guarantee you that. In terms of flop for this team, I went for Marcus Williams. If when you are targeted, you give opposing QBs perfect rating. Yeah, that's bad. That's ugly. So unfortunately, Marcus, the flop is there for you. We will see where the future lands Marcus Williams. So with that being said, awards are done. 2024 is dust and settled. Let's take a look at where this franchise is at overall. They have John Harbaugh, their head coach. To me, he's really good. Head coach, really, really freaking good. To me, what he's missing towards an A+, and I'm not sure if I will be able to grant it to someone who is not just a guru of some position, because I feel like once again we've seen some of the pain that comes with being the head coach that is more of leader of men rather than specialist on defense or offense, because they needed to change their defensive coordinator, and then defense went from really good into really shit for a lot of for huge chunks of 2024 with a lot of talent. They are not talentless in that side. So with that's kind of what holds John Harbaugh from that. And obviously there's kind of lack of success in the last couple of seasons for the Ravens. Playoff is not enough, right? In terms of 2024, yeah, they made it to the division round, but it's still B+, B minus, because, well, the health was there, the quality was there. It was kind of Super Bowl or bust for them, right, in terms of expectations. And I'm not going to sit here and, because you have not won a Super Bowl, it's an F, because that's stupid. There is this 8 teams every year that has reasonable chance to win a Super Bowl. So, surprise, surprise, not every single team out of that 8 can win it. Sometimes it's even someone out of that 8. This year, Washington, who would have thought that Washington was actually, they had the chance to win a Super Bowl, legit chance. Who would have thought, right? So, it would be stupid to rank pretty much 7 teams an E because, well, they didn't win a Super Bowl. But to me, what really makes this stink more is they were reasonably healthy. They had QB at the peak of their power. They had a great Derrick Henry, but their defense was lacking off. They also were very healthy. They didn't get too much from the draft, so there was a lot of good. Again, your quarterback was playing. I think he was playing as the best QB in the league, coincide with Josh Allen. Your running back, again, next to Saquon Barkley, best running back, you were able to progress your offensive line, kind of replace a lot of guys in terms of age and replace them with young guys on cheap. Great. Some of the guys that you struggled in terms of injuries in the past, Ronnie Stanley and Marlon Humphrey, they stepped up, were able to play the whole season. So there was a lot of good. But again, it's just a divisional round. You didn't get too much from your draft. And your defense was, for a lot of stretches, just not good. Well, in terms of QB, I have to go for 3 pluses. I would say there are four QBs that I don't care if they are being paid, because for them, when they are in, they might be top paid quarterbacks in the league and top paid players because of that. But there is still some type of roof on their contracts, and if guys like Dak and Tua, when like whatever, like guys that are like getting paid 40, 50 millions, and then there's Lamar Jackson being paid 55. Like on the market that gives Dak 50 to 55, like Lamar would be 80, 85. So the fact that you get him for 55 or something like that makes him a bargain, in my opinion. So that's where I'm like putting comparison in terms of value in this. So to me, for guys, if they are being paid not 80 millions, because nobody is paid 80 millions, but they are getting paid as much as pretty much another 10 to 15 quarterbacks, yeah, that's to me is 3 pluses because they are absolutely freaking worth it. In terms of hot seat, I went for a 3 because, well, like I said, there is a lack of Super Bowl success, like it's lack of Super Bowls played for the Baltimore. So they are constantly really freaking good. I don't think John Harbaugh is under hot seat at all, but like 2 more years of disappointment in terms of not even reaching Super Bowls, and the chair might start to wiggle. In terms of finances, they were entering the offseason with a very tight budget. On the other side, a lot of the guys were being tight towards contracts, but there are a couple of very good young players that are going to get paid very soon. Well, it's Tyler Bone, Kyle Hamilton, and so on. You also have all 3 tight ends last year of their contracts, as well as for the finances. I always look at how their current rookies in terms of drafts performed. They really didn't get much of this group this season. Like, yeah, 2 good players. Yeah, so in terms of finances, it was not great, but it was not abysmal either. Standing with this team, just run. You better run. Lamar and Derrick Henry, I just love the duo, the pairing, the rushing game. It's just so much fun. In terms of division, from the point of Ravens, you are looking at the Bengals, you are looking at the Steelers, and you are looking at the Browns. Like I was saying, I always done this before free agency started, so this is pre-free agency, okay? So pre-free agency to me, Browns are damned, and they should be trading Myles Garrett if they are ever going to recover from the Deshaun Watson trade and pushing money down the line. I don't think that with Myles Garrett you are going anywhere, because you have so much depth from pushing money down the line that it's just that franchise you do. That was my thinking. With Myles Garrett trade, you can jumpstart rebuild. Even then, like, you are still like, whether it would be this case or the case that actually happened when they prologued Myles Garrett, Cleveland, you are super happy to have Cleveland in your division. Let's put it this way. With Pittsburgh, I think they are kind of this neutral team. They will always going to be good. They will probably never challenge you for Super Bowls, but for specifically this division, they will be pain in the ass in the playoffs. So, like for other teams, playoffs, for other teams wanting to compete for a Super Bowl, Pittsburgh, you kind of like, okay, they probably are not winning Super Bowl. But for the Ravens specifically, they are much more of a pain in the ass because, well, the rivalry is definitely there. And then you have Bengals, and you might argue, well, you have great Bengals with Joe Burrow, you have average Steelers, and you have below average Browns, or like bad Browns, so this should be much more of a neutral. Where I don't actually view Bengals as top dogs because of how they function as a franchise. They are on limited budget. They are not able to spend a lot of cash on bringing free agents, and there is Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson, all with last year of their contracts, neither one of being paid. And this was a case before free agency started, of course, that they might lose 2 of them. So despite having Joe Burrow, I actually view Cincinnati as like slightly better than the Steelers, but nothing more at this point of time. So that's why I would say from their perspective, this is actually not a bad division to be in. Now let's look at how their lineup could shape up for 2025. So I thought that Ronnie Stanley would get severely overpaid by someone, most likely Patriots, to bring and protect Drake May. Well, they were able to bring him back, but here I was not thinking that. So to me, I feel like they are happy with the progress of their ranked players, Voorhees, Valera, and Rosengarten, with Tyler and Bumom, like kind of being that great guy that they can like Rice next to, yeah, I think they would be okay. With Ronnie Stanley, it's definitely going to be very solid line. With Lamar, there is really nothing to discuss there. In terms of playmakers, I think they are absolutely set there. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. In terms of what this offense needs, these are two wide receivers, 1-2 that you are super happy with. Again, for wide receiver 3, they might go for a route of like experienced veteran, or they might go like second, third round draft pick. Don't spend premium, but let's have a guy in case Zay Flowers or Rashad Bateman goes down that we can plug in their places. In terms of tight ends, Andrews unlikely, great duo combine. Derrick Henry, I mean, yeah. If you know what the Ravens are doing and you look at this slide, yeah, you are happy. You are freaking happy. In terms of backups, I feel like there is clearly Justice Hill, who is great complement to Derrick Henry. There's Charlie Corral, great complement towards their tight end game and towards Mike Andrews and Isaiah Likely. In terms of the rest, yeah, that's much more of a question mark. I don't really feel like, or at least pre-free agency where I did this, that there were too many players that I was like, well, I don't think they will be able to bring Patrick McCarry back because he is going to get like semi-starting money, and with they're clearly wanting to get cheaper and younger in terms of offensive line, that's just not, that just doesn't fit with Roger Rosengarten getting as good as he did year one. And it kind of is similar for a lot of other positions for this offense. So we'll see what they bring. Probably is going to be cheap veteran options or draft picks. In terms of defense, I think they are actually very well set in terms of their defensive line. Kyle Van Noy is a huge bargain, and as in terms of like how this D-line is supposed to function, where you hope that Odafe can make the step up to be like a great H2. You can recount on Madubuike to be your one, and Travis Jones and Kyle Van Noy kind of allow them to do so, complementing their game. Yeah, that's definitely functional D-line. It's not a game-wrecking D-line. It probably doesn't even have that potential, though. With pretty much everyone beside Kyle Van Noy, you can make an argument that the arrow could be pointing up for them. In terms of linebackers, I wonder if they put back Trenton Simpson into the starting lineup, because I don't give up on him. I think he is like a great athlete, and that remote control on Roquan Smith, shoulders could work absolutely fine with him. But there is obviously question marks with him being benched and the defense getting better. But to me, this is probably the likeliest option for them. In terms of the secondary, I thought they would keep Marcus Williams because there is not that much to be saved by releasing him, but they are clearly done with him. With the rest, it's pretty much clear. Washington with restricted free agent tender should be back. Nate Wiggins clearly back. Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, stars of the secondary. They need to bring second wide corner into the mix and safety, because Kyle Hamilton, despite having this safety next to his elite starter, he is not just a safety. And in terms of backups, they kind of have several. Michael Beers, I do feel like they could bring him back for a cheap contract. Whether he wants to play or not, it's up to him. In terms of other guys, Broderick Washington, David Ojabo are like solid rotational options. We will see if TJ Tampa gets more snaps, or if he even gets like a starting chance next season. But for a team that obviously is in a win now mode, you would probably hope that they would turn to someone better to be for most of the time opposite to Nate Wiggins. With that being said, these were your Ravens. Well, I've enjoyed their season. I've enjoyed their offense. I did not enjoy so much the defense, and there is a bitter taste on my mouth with them, because it's just like a lot of things went their way, especially the injuries, the Lamar form, and still we have not seen Lamar in the Super Bowl. So will it happen? You just have to wonder, because with with the conference being like full of exceptional QBs. Like the 4th best quarterbacks are in the conference. One of the 2 best young quarterbacks is in there as well. Like it's tough. It's definitely tough. So we will see what the Ravens are going to achieve for 2025. They will definitely be again one of the favorites. But we'll see if that will amount to the success at the end of the day, which to them it's Super Bowl. Let's face it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We will be back with the next one. See you with them. Until then, have a great day and great mood. Bye bye.